Welcome to the Bible Breakdown. It's a black man and woman in America who no longer identify as believers. This show contains adult languages, themes, and isn't meant for children. As black people, we respect the history of the black church in America, but its current state is massively abusive, and we think the Bible might be part of the problem. Listen and let us know what you think. Peace. All right, welcome back to the Bible Breakdown. I'm your host, Kat.
And I'm TK.
Yeah, we're here back at it again. Do you remember what we talked about last time on the Bible Breakdown?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask that. And
how'd you know?
Good thing I keep a record of the notes from last week. We did 1 Chronicles 16, 17, and 18. And in that, we discussed the Ark of the Covenant, which was brought to Jerusalem. Talks more about David. David did a song of thanksgiving. We also talked about some more military successes via David's military. And lastly, not lastly, but also in addition to that, we talked about, I guess more about David and God's promise via that covenant.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of why I don't particularly care for the David character in the Bible, even though he's always pointed to as like sort of this biblical hero. But there's really not much that he did except kill people and not particularly raise his children very well and kill a guy so he could sleep with his wife. Like, he's always credited as oh, he was so great because he listened to God, but he mostly just listened to God about the people he should kill. And, in real life, we usually put those people in jail.
You don't believe this was real life?
I don't, if David was a real person, which is possible, no, I don't think the God of the universe was talking to him about how to kill his enemies. I think that was either something he hallucinated or lied about to justify his actions.
When do you think in history they started feeling like, people can't just say things, like we actually have to fact check? Like, you can't just kill people.
I mean, technically, it's still like that. There's some people who are allowed to kill in this world and some people who aren't. You think about our military, they're allowed to go places and kill people, but you and I can't just decide that it's in the best interest of the world that we kill someone. So I don't know that there's ever been a time in history where we've really even come to that, where we should stop killing each other to solve problems. But I hope to get there soon.
That would be nice.
It would be. I think what we've done is kind of come out of an age of miracles. I think what happened is that now that we're able to have video camera and stuff like that, it's hard to come up with these fantastic stories because you're like, okay, we'll do it in front of everybody. And they're like, no, you can't test God.
They will. It's called AI.
So yeah, it's
getting better and better every day.
It is, but maybe AI did create our universe. Who knows? I think
we're in a simulation.
Regardless, it just depends on how you define simulation. And if you're talking about an area with rules, then yeah, we're in a simulation. So
I like the idea of yes, that, but also the fact that we are just one version of an alternate reality, or a version of a reality, I guess.
Yeah, like a multiverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's totally possible. But the whole thing is what are we gonna do about it? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if it's a simulation, I want to make it a good simulation. So,
But what if you're in the version where everything goes to shit for you?
I'm kind of I know I'm not in like the best version of a universe because Trump's about to be president again. So I already know I'm kind of a shitty version. Like I'm in a country where at least half of the people who can vote prefer a rapist over a black lady.
You know what's interesting about that is hopefully my audio did not go out. Can you still hear
I can
me?
totally hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, my computer went sleep. Anyway, okay, my camera's going
Now
down
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
But what is interesting about that, however, is the amount of people that I continue to find that are saying things like, "Oh, I didn't know Trump was gonna do this," or "I didn't know Trump was gonna do that," or maybe not specifically Trump, but a video I watched earlier today that dealt with the fact of the MAGA base, if you will call them, is split, and a particular person who's been a Trump advocate was shocked that a particular part of the base is like, "Hey, yeah, you fucking Iran dude, go back to your fucking country," even though he was born here. Yeah, and he was shocked by that. And a lot of people seem to be shocked by that who are not white presenting individuals.
Yeah, I think that what's funny to me is, like you said, a lot of the individuals you're describing who are, let's say, non-white or non-black, a lot of times they still tend to be very anti-black. Like, and there's this idea of like, well, these so-called white people, I mean, of course they hate black people. Black people are worse, but like that racism won't extend to me because I'm like not that. But the way white supremacy works is they just think they're better than you on account of being white. And also in some places, Iranian people are considered white because, you know, it's just something we made up. So, yeah, it's funny to watch, but it's also deeply disappointing because, yeah, if you weren't so committed to your own bias, you might have recognized it in someone else.
I just wish that we could then have those people who are having this revelation acknowledge that they fucked up, and let's work together to rectify it.
People aren't
potentially fucked up. I mean,
people aren't great at admitting they were wrong. I think that's one of the appeals of a lot of religions is this confidence you get to have or experience secondhand when you're listening to your preacher. Like it's very comforting for our brains. Like our lives are so uncertain, and there's, you know, from one day to the next, like you solved one problem and here comes another one. And, you know, if someone's telling you, it's like, hey, the God of the universe loves you and cares about you, is going to take care of you. And, you know, after you die, you get to see, you know, your dead puppy in heaven. It's like, wow, that sounds great. I'll take that. Instead of the alternative, which is life is hard. It's going to continue to be hard. It'll get better sometimes. It'll be hard sometimes. And, you know, yeah, like there's not a lot of certainty there. And we prefer I know I prefer certainty, but there's just some things we don't get to be certain about because we're just little people.
I prefer consistency.
Sure. But like the universe doesn't owe you consistency.
I mean, that's fair.
Like, yeah, life doesn't as much as, and like I said, that is what the appeal of religion is that consistency. What I would hear all the time in church is God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But what we're learning is yesterday being the stuff we're reading in the Bible, God, the Lord, as they're describing him in the Bible, super cool with slavery and murdering people to take their land, which I don't think's cool.
I agree. I also don't think that's cool, but I'm just a guy on a podcast who doesn't want my identity to be known. So people don't try to kill me.
There you go. We're just two sinners.
Although I feel like I'm finding bravery or more. I don't even want to know. I don't know. I'll use the word bravery, confidence, because you said confidence, and just kind of telling people to. I mean, for lack of better terms, fuck off when it comes to religion. I feel like over the last couple weeks, I've found myself in religious conversations, which I've respectfully set my boundaries.
That's fabulous.
But I also don't mind entertaining the thought. I just don't want to have people try to, what's the word? Indoctrinate me again.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Sure. That's understandable. But that's a big part of evangelical, their whole thing. You got to evangelize.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Got to pay those bills.
Don't we all? Well, do you want to hop into the New Revised Standard version of First Chronicles 19? It's not long.
I would love to. I'm on a roll so far today of just productivity, so why not? Yeah, we actually have a shortened, some shortened chapters today, or verses. These
are chapters.
Chapters. Yeah, we have some shortened ones today, so that's exciting.
Yeah, we deserve a break.
Okay. You said Jesus gave us a break?
No, I said we deserve a break.
Yes, we do. But, let's plow through. First Chronicles 19, defeat of the Ammonites and Arameans. Sometime afterward, King Nahash of the Ammonites died, and his son succeeded him. David said, I will deal loyally with Hanun, son of Nahash, for his father dealt loyally with me. So David sent messengers to console him concerning his father. When David's servants came to Hanun in the land of the Ammonites to console him, the officials of the Ammonites said to Hanun, do you think because David has sent consolers to you that he is honoring your father? Have not his servants come to you to search and to overthrow and to spy out the land? So Hanun seized David's servants, shaved them, cut off their garments in the middle at their hips, and sent them away. And they departed. When David was told about the men, he sent messengers to them, for they felt greatly humiliated. The king said, remain at Jericho until your beards have grown, and then return. When the Ammonites saw that they had made themselves odious to David, Hanun and the Ammonites sent 1,000 talents of silver to hire chariots and cavalry from Mesopotamia, from Aram, Makkah, and from Zobah. They hired 32,000 chariots, and the king of Makkah with his family, who came and camped before Medeba, and the Ammonites were mustered from their cities and came to battle. When David heard of it, he sent Joab and all the army of the warriors. The Ammonites came out and drew up in battle array at the entrance of the city, and the kings who had come were by themselves in the open country. When Joab saw that the line of battle was set against him both in front and in the rear, he chose some of the picked men of Israel and arrayed them outside the Arameans. The rest of his troops he put in charge of his brother Abishai, and they were arrayed against the Ammonites. He said, if the Arameans are too strong for me, then you shall help me. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will help you. Be strong and let us be courageous for our people and for the cities of our God, and may the Lord do what seems good to him. So Joab and the troops who were with him advanced toward the Arameans for battle, and they fled before him. When the Ammonites saw that the Arameans fled, they likewise fled before Abishai, Joab's brother, and entered the city. Then Joab came to Jerusalem. But when the Arameans saw that they had been defeated by Jerusalem, they sent messengers and brought out the Arameans
Israel,
who were beyond the Ooh, sorry. What did I say?
Jerusalem.
I don't even know where I got that from.
I mean,
But when the Arameans saw that they had been defeated by Israel, they sent messengers and brought out the Arameans who were beyond the Euphrates, with Shobach, the commander of the army of Hadadezer, at their head. When David was informed, he gathered all Israel together, crossed the Jordan, came to them, and drew up his forces against them. When David set the battle in array against the Arameans, they fought with him. The Arameans fled before Israel, and David killed 7,000 Aramean charioteers and 40,000 foot soldiers, and also killed Shobach, the commander of their army. When the servants of Hadadezer saw that they had been defeated by Israel, they made peace with David and became subject to him. So the Arameans were not willing to help the Ammonites anymore. Thanks be to God.
Yeah. That just kind of reminded me of like gang warfare. Like you defeat somebody and now you get their turf.
That's generally how it works, right?
Yeah. It's just, to me, a reminder that this isn't necessarily divine or holy. This is just brutal violence. And if you believe that the God of the universe just liked David so much because he knew how to chop up animals and set them on fire, or, you know, make sacrifices basically, to prove how much, you know, how super into.
Maybe he was really good at it.
And dancing. Don't forget
really
that dancing.
I mean, it's be similar to today. People have a affinity for celebrities, and in most people's minds, they can do no wrong.
It's very true. I think we were talking before about a Netflix documentary I watched called Dancing with the Devil, about this like church/media marketing firm that would sign like TikTok dancers to be Christian influencers and dance for Christ. And at the same time, like basically convince them to like basically tithe all their money to him. And eventually, of course, I don't know if you'd be, I mean, shocked to hear this, but also sleeping with a lot of members of the church and then convincing them to sleep with other people too. Where I'm from, that's called pimping.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of something that's going on in real time. Joy Taylor of Fox Sports has been accused of getting her position through sexual favors. And I thought that was so interesting.
I mean, it's hard for me to take that seriously because almost every woman who gets a job is accused of that. I'm just saying, like, I heard the same stuff about.
There's more to it, and I feel like
I don't even know who she is. Like, I don't know who. Yeah, I don't know who that is. But it just seems to me like
I don't think you would be a fan of her.
I mean, yeah, I'm not a sports person, but just generally,
not even that. Is
she bad at her job?
Mentality. She's okay.
Okay, well,
she's not the best sports analyst, but she's fine.
Sure. So who is she supposedly to fucked to get the job? That's not exactly what I was talking about. Sports. I was really talking about someone who's using their position of power to.
Well, I said it made me think of that.
Okay.
The sex.
Because at least she's getting paid. These chicks weren't even getting paid.
In the TikTok dancer thingy.
Yeah, like he's getting all the money. That's why I'm saying it's pimping. Like what you're describing is more sex, sexual favors. Hey, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. I'm not saying it's ethical, but it's not the same as convincing someone they're going to hell if you don't do everything they say and sleep with the people you tell them to sleep with.
That's fair.
But yeah, it's sort of this idea that, David would have been a very popular influencer in today's times, for sure.
I'm sure I don't know. That makes me think of the person I was telling you about, that my sister told me about earlier.
Oh, that preacher?
His name is Pastor Anthony Mitchell or Mason. I can't remember.
I think it was Mitchell.
His initials are Pam on his website.
Oh, Pastor Anthony Mitchell.
Yeah. And I had a brief conversation with her yesterday. We talked, first time we talked this year. And she was just saying how she wanted me to go to, she was like, would I be interested in going to Atlanta to go to this church with her? Because she's not used to traveling alone, but she found out about him via TikTok, and apparently he's so popular because he's so real, and she's never heard anybody speak like that. He doesn't come off like normal pastors. He seems very...
Oh, and he's got a pretty wife too. They're like a cute couple. Because like the first thing that popped up when I Googled Pastor Anthony, and then it came up Pastor Anthony Mitchell's wife. Oh, yeah. She's a natural hair icon. She looks kind of...
That's not the first thing.
Okay, so yeah, he's like the kind of guy... We've probably actually seen him on people's like Instagram stories. He seems like that kind of person.
I've not seen him before, but...
I mean, I'm just saying,
whatever.
Or someone like him. It's a type. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
oh, yeah, he's a type. Well, the first thing I thought about was, what was that dude's name? Jaron Jackson?
I don't know who any of these dudes are. To me, that's why I'm saying I
gotta Google.
I've never heard of him. I can't say for sure I've seen him on an Instagram story. He just seems like the type of person that
No, it's not Jaron Jackson. Hold. Well, you could say what you want, but I need to get this point out.
No, go ahead.
Fuck. I don't know his name.
That's what I'm saying. I don't need to know. I mean, I don't know any of their names. Okay, so he's from New York, so he probably has like a nice little swag, and then yeah, he just seems like a. Yes, once again, all these people are influenced.
Derek Jackson, that's him.
All right, Derek I'm Jackson. Lying. I have heard of him. So this guy,
yeah,
yeah, all of these guys.
That's just who this dude. I feel like this is gonna be another Darren Jackson story.
Is it Derek or Darren?
Derek. I keep saying I'm confusing him with the basketball player, Darren.
Okay, I was about to say because I'm pretty sure, but yeah, all of these, you know what?
It is Derek Jackson is the influencer I am trying to speak.
Okay, so was he the one who brought his wife in with a bonnet on?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I remember him from. Because he was cheating on her. Okay, so what all of these guys have in common, and like I said, this does tie nicely into David. They're attractive and charismatic.
How the fuck does this dude still have 1 million followers?
Easy. People are so quick to forget.
How is he still making content?
Can I spell it out for you?
What the fuck is...
Can I spell it out for you, TK?
Please.
P-I-M-P-ology. Learning these hoes biology. Like, this is all it is. Like, it's the same as when you somebody who has a pimp. And we're wondering, it's like, wait, why do you keep giving this guy all your money and like let him treat you poorly? It's like he's sold a narrative that you believe in, because women who are being pimped, I should say people who are being pimped, they don't think they're being pimped. They think this is a long-term strategy where they're going to be with this person eventually. Like that, and this is just, they're helping to, be a part of a grand plan that's going to see them on top with this person eventually. So that's why people are perfectly happy to keep, even though there's no evidence, because faith isn't about evidence. It's specifically the lack of evidence and still believing that makes it faith.
This triggers
I'm sorry,
me
I didn't want to try. I didn't want to trigger you.
I'm triggered by this for the simple fact of, and I've said it before on probably multiple episodes, it just keeps coming down to politeness over principle. And I don't like these people who keep fucking playing in my face, essentially. Like, just tell me the real. I don't want, and then let me make my decision. Like, I'm tired of that. I don't like that shit. It makes me want to punch people in their face.
But you don't, and that's what's important. But your feelings are valid.
I don't.
But it is hard to fight that.
I just don't like the bullshit. This is why I never could get into.
God, you would be such a
like
good
when we
Christian
were going to Catholic
influencer.
school.
You got the beard and everything.
Yeah, I just don't.
I know. I don't want to live that way either.
Like it's unethical.
It's deeply unethical.
Bullshit.
But yeah, it's interesting your sister actually wants to go to Atlanta to see him talk. Like, why is it not enough to, if it's just talking, like, I feel like I can get the.
For our listeners who don't know, my sister is very much into loving Jesus, and she just, that's how she is.
But I'm saying, like, what does go?
She's very attracted to these type of
but
personalities.
Why go there? Why is being there so important?
Well, it started with just wanting to take a trip.
Oh, okay.
Us talking about taking.
Oh, and then while you're there,
and then she brought up. Yeah, she brought up that.
Well, if you do,
like,
I think you should go just as a fact-finding mission.
I thought about doing that.
Yeah,
for research
you can always leave early.
Because I actually had to text her this morning and ask her his name and the church information, and she was like, "Oh, do you plan on looking him? Do you plan on like looking him up and like listen to his content?" And I just had to answer that without answering it by saying, "Oh, no, I was having a conversation with someone and they asked me about it," which was true. I was telling somebody else about this and they asked me who he was. And so I needed.
I will say he has really good branding, especially the.
Oh, yeah. His shit was fire. When
crisp.
I went to his website, though, like I was like,
it's crisp.
Yeah, his shit's fire. Like as far from a market,
branding wise, it's
from a marketing,
amazing.
Yeah, fire.
But yeah.
But that's the dream. Like that's what I'm saying. People sell you the dream, like,
and then get disappointed when you're not.
Sells
you have to express sort of the frustration of dating like Christian women, and then the sort of expectation of like you're supposed to be this. Can I just be honest? Because like I said, I'm tired of the bullshit. I feel like most of the married men who've tried to hit on me, because I'm, for people who don't know, Kat's a single lady.
You've said this before.
Well, I'm going to say it again because you never know if this is.
I'm not saying it as a bad. I'm just saying like you
to say it before, but most of the married people who've hit on me have been married. Like most of the married men who've hit on me have been Christian dudes, like the church niggas. Like it never fails, and like so many of the church niggas in our city and lots of other, like I said, the Derek Jacksons of the world, they're very rarely living like practicing what they preach. They're happy to profit over it. And to me, that I'm with you. Like, I don't like the bullshit. And what I really don't like is the people that it hurts, because people are psychologically damaged by this, by the thought of if they don't do what this person says, they're going to hell. They're doing everything that they're being told, but they're not seeing results, and they're blaming themselves for not having enough faith. And to me, that turmoil and watching that's when I want to punch someone in the face, because people don't deserve that. People deserve to be accepted, because a lot of times what people are attracted to in church is this community and acceptance and, wanting to have a sense of purpose, which is all very understandable, because as human beings, I feel like most of us all feel that. But I feel like very rarely, I see it mostly in like sort of small community churches when it's actually being fulfilled. But in these mega churches and with these Christian influencers, I feel like it's this like sort of evil relationship with capitalism and like marketing.
That, and just to touch back on the point of the people that it hurts, because the situation that I brought up last episode with the young woman who feels how she feels in relation to my friend, that she has a background in this type of system. And so being that she's never had an official boyfriend, and that now she's essentially going through her first heartbreak at almost 30, is like really fucking her up, because she, honestly just doesn't seem to know how to take it, doesn't know how to process it. And it's a weird situation to be in, because I feel bad for her, because I understand why she feels like that, but also the way she's going about handling the shit in relation to my friend who also did his bullshit in this situation, is also not acceptable. And it's just a bad thing all around, man. It's really bad.
That it is. Do you want to read some more stuff? Or listen to some stuff while I'll read?
Yeah, that's the plan.
1 Chronicles 20. Siege and capture of Rabbah. In the spring of the year, the time when kings go out to battle, Joab led out an army, ravaged the country of the Ammonites, and came and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem. Joab attacked Rabbah and overthrew it. David took the crown of Milcom from his head. He found that it weighed a talent of gold, and it was a precious stone, and it was placed on David's head. He also brought out the booty of the city, a very great amount. He brought out the people who were in it and set them to work with saws and irons, picks and axes. Thus David did to all the cities of the Ammonites. Then David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. Exploits against the Philistines. After this, war broke out with the Philistines at Gezer. Then Sibbekai, the Hushathite, killed Sippai, who was one of the descendants of the giants, and the Philistines were subdued. Again there was war with the Philistines, and Elhanan, son of Jair, killed Lahmi, the brother of Goliath the Gittite, the shaft of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. Again there was war at Gath, where there was a man of great size, who had 6 fingers on each hand, and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in number. He also was descended from the giants. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan, son of Shemiah, David's brother, killed him. These were the descendants from the giants of Gath. They fell by the hand of David and his servants. Ba-da-ba.
Thanks be to God. I don't really have much for that. I just, again, feel like, and I've said this so many times, I'm just a broken record. I feel like we've talked about all of this before, again and again and again. They wanted you to, I guess to some degree, know these tales.
Well, I mean,
It's like making the fucking Spider-Man movies over and over again and giving his origin story every single fucking film.
That's
I
fair,
get it,
because the Spider-Man films were entertaining. And this is not. Once again, he killed a whole bunch of people. And to me, what would have been impressive, at least from to me, that would prove to me that like God was involved, was if there was a solution that didn't involve killing a bunch of people and taking their stuff, which is what Genghis Khan did, Napoleon, Hitler, the American colonists. Like, this is a move throughout all of history, and it does seem like usually people do use God as their excuse. And to me, that's what I don't like. Yeah,
tell Luigi Magdaloni.
What?
Bitch.
Oh, don't get us canceled. I'm gonna take that part out.
I'm just saying, like.
But I mean, you're right though, because it's one of those situations where it's like, well, why is it?
My argument is this though. Like, that's why it goes back to my original question. When in human history did they start being like, we're not there yet? Because even the law, like, if I go shoot and kill somebody right now and be like, God told me to do it, you're fucking taking my black ass to jail. So like, why is anything else acceptable? Like, why are we?
You need to do it in larger numbers.
Okay, with accepting this shit without
proof. We don't like individuals doing it, but like if it's like I said, like 3,500 or 35,000 soldiers, then it's cool. Like, for whatever reason, our brains are like that. When we hear about like terrible things like genocides and ethnic cleansings, we're kind of like meh. But if we hear like a kid fell down a well, all of a sudden we're all concerned. Our brains aren't logical.
I'm not wire like that at all. Anybody getting fucking killed is horrible. It's a horrible thing to happen. Like, that's not okay.
It's not.
And it doesn't have to, like, the world has enough resources and all of these things for people to live comfortable enough lives. Like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
And it is really just comes down to like a few people at the top who just duck accountability. Like, all this is just people ducking accountability, people being greedy. Like, this is fucking ridiculous, man. And I have to wake up every day and have these people playing in my face, which is something I wanted to bring up earlier in connection to this. But when I started to mention Apple, because it just came out like, oh, Siri has been accidentally listening to your
accidentally, quote unquote,
using that to send it to advertisers. And for years, tech influencers were saying, "Oh, it doesn't actually do that," but we knew it was doing that. And like that's just, I'm just fed up with people playing in my fucking face, man. Like, I know you're bullshitting me. Just have the fucking human decency to say you're bullshitting me.
Because then it doesn't work. Like, then it's not fun for them. But like, yeah. I've always like it's so weird to me, like when people are just like, oh, I love this tech giant so much, I buy all their stuff. It's like, yeah, they're an evil corporation just like everybody else. There's no reason to be loyal to your corporate overlords. I
mean, I like Apple, but shit, I mean, I'm not fucking, like, I know they're on bullshit. Like, I know they use child labor and shit. Like, I'm not immune to that. Yes, that all happens. We use the shit. Like, same thing with Nike. I like Nike. I think they're inspirational as far as from a business standpoint. But let's not get it fucking confused. These companies are not our friends. They just want to make a fucking dollar off of you. And that's the whole thing. Again, like, you can mute this part or not, or edit it. But that's the whole thing with the Luigi shit. It's like, regardless, I don't know his real motives. Maybe he just wanted the spotlight. I don't fucking know. What I do know is nobody's fucking sad about that dude dying. Like, it's fucked up that he died. I don't wish that on anybody. But also, let's not act like he didn't fucking profit from fucking canceling people's policies who have fucking cancer. Like, my fucking mom is dying of fucking cancer. And these jobs are making it to where they want to pay for her fuck insurance if she's not at work. That is bullshit. You should not live in a fucking country where this type of shit is happening. You should not live in a world where this type of shit is happening. And it's only from and a lot of it is the backbone of this religious. I'm trying not to call people's religious shit bullshit, but this shit is just, it's very frustrating.
Well, we call it dogma. I usually say religious dogma when I'm trying not to say bullshit. Okay. But yes.
I don't know
dogma,
what that word means.
Let me look at it. Like, dogma is just kind of like the set of rules, which tend to be bullshit. But let me give you an exact definition. Dogma: the principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true. It's the official definition.
Wait, say that again.
Dogma is the dogma, noun. A principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true.
Incontrovertibly, does that mean
you can't question it? Yeah, you can't question it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Context clues, baby. That's what a good old Catholic
there you
education
go. And
taught
so
me.
yeah, that's why I feel like it's bullshit, because anything that is real can stand up to questioning. When I'm talking about something that I'm excited about and want to teach people about, I welcome questions, because especially because if it's something I've never thought of before, like that should, to me, that's a positive thing. But if you do that in religion, people get pissed off and call you an asshole.
I welcome that. I feel like that's great. This is why I have friends like you and other people. And it's like, we can have hard conversations, and like, regardless if I get upset or not, like, I still respect your opinion, and I'm not going to cut you off, because I want those type of people in my life.
It's tough though. But, yeah, people, they don't like it when you question their stuff. I remember one time I had someone who was trying to like evangelize to me, And because, there's always the problem of evil. If you have an all-powerful God who's also supposed to be benevolent, it's like, well, then why do so many absolutely atrocious things happen if God, supposedly loves us? And they were like, well, it's kind of like if there was like a tragedy in a family and like a baby died, and then but it managed to help like other members of the family get closer together who are maybe estranged. And I was like, well, it just seems to me like an all-powerful God could figure out a way to do that without torturing and killing a baby. And then they were like, well, yeah, if you say it like an asshole. And I'm like, okay, conversation over.
And I'm so glad that you brought that up. That specific thought ran through my mind over this past week or so about God being both good and evil. Because whatever I was watching, it might have been the thing you sent me, but Isaiah 45:7 states,
I know what you're about to say.
That God forms the light and creates the darkness. I make both peace and create evil, meaning God is responsible for both. So what the fuck are we talking about? According to the Bible, I'm not just saying this. This is in the very text that people idolize, create their dogma from.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that up because I was actually about to bring that verse up myself. So boom, parallel thinking. But yes, even according to the biblical God, like, because even if you take sort of like what we've learned about Christianity literally, that means God created the devil. Could have not have done that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the whole thing. But actually, it's kind of interesting because Satan shows up in 1 Chronicles 21.
Oh, perfect.
But I actually, I'll save it for after you're done.
All right. 1 Chronicles 21. We're reading the New Revised Standard Version, if we didn't say that at the beginning of this episode. The census and plague. Satan stood up against Israel and incited David to count the people of Israel. So David said to Joab and the commander of the army, "Go number Israel from Beersheba to Dan and bring me a report so that I may know their number." But Joab said, "May the Lord increase the number of his people in a 100-fold. Are they not, my lord the king? All of them my lord's servants. Why then should my lord require this? Why should he bring guilt on Israel?" But the king's word prevailed against Joab. So Joab departed and went throughout all Israel and came back to Jerusalem. Joab gave the total count of the people to David. In all Israel there were 1,100,000 men who drew the sword, and in Judah 470,000 who drew the sword. But he did not include Levi and Benjamin in the numbering, for the king's command was abhorrent to Joab. But God was displeased with this thing, and he struck Israel. David said to God, "I have sinned greatly in that I have done this thing. But now I pray you, take away the guilt of your servant, for I have done very foolishly." The Lord spoke to Gad, David's seer, saying, "Go and say to David, thus says the Lord, 3 things I offer you. Choose one of them, so that I may do it to you." So Gad came to David and said to him, "Thus says the Lord, take your choice. Either 3 years of famine or 3 months of devastation by your foes while the sword of your enemies overtakes you, or 3 days of the sword of the Lord, pestilence on the land, and the angel of the Lord destroying throughout all the territory of Israel. Now decide what answer I shall return to the one who sent me." Then David said to Gad, "I am in great distress. Let me fall into the hand of the Lord, for his mercy is very great, but let me not fall into human hands." So the Lord sent a pestilence on Israel, and 70,000 persons fell in Israel. And God sent an angel to Jerusalem to destroy it. But when he was about to destroy it, the Lord took note and relented concerning the calamity. He said to the destroying angel, "Enough, stay your hand." The angel of the Lord was then standing by the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. David looked up and saw the angel of the Lord standing between earth and heaven, and in his hand a drawn sword stretched out over Israel.
Jerusalem.
Then David and the elders clothed Jerusalem. God,
Your
where
brain's
am I?
switching those
I don't know
up.
why
You
I keep
might be a
mixing
little
these two
dyslexic.
up.
It's fine.
Then David and the elders, clothed in sackcloth, fell on their faces. And David said to God, Was it not I who gave the command to count the people? It is I who have sinned and done very wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? Let your hand, I pray, O Lord my God, be against me and against my father's house, but do not let your people be plagued. David, altar and sacrifice. Then the angel of the Lord commanded Gad to tell David that he should go up and erect an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. So David went up, following Gad's instructions, which he had spoken in the name of the Lord. Ornan turned and saw the angel, and while his 4 sons who were with him hid themselves, Ornan continued to thresh wheat. As David came to Ornan, Ornan looked and saw David. He went out from the threshing floor and did obeisance to David with his face to the ground. Obeisance, thank you. Did obeisance to David with his face to the ground. David said to Ornan, give me the site of the threshing floor that I may build on it an altar to the Lord. Give it to me at its full price so that the plague may be averted from the people. Then Ornan said to David, take it and let my lord the king do what seems good to him. See, I present the oxen for burnt offerings and the threshing sledges for the wood and the wheat for a grain offering. I give it all. But King David said to Ornan, no, I will buy them for the full price. I will not take for the Lord what is yours, nor offer burnt offerings that cost me nothing. So David paid Ornan 600 shekels of gold by wheat for the site. David built there an altar to the Lord and presented burnt offerings and offerings of well-being. He called upon the Lord, and he answered him with fire from heaven on the altar of burnt offering. Then the Lord commanded the angel, and he put his sword back into its sheath, the place chosen for the people. Temple. At that time, when David saw that the Lord had answered him, temple. What the fuck?
Maybe you're having a stroke.
I might. Hopefully. The place chosen for the temple. At that time, when David saw that the Lord had answered him at the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite, he made his sacrifices there. For the tabernacle of the Lord, which Moses had made in the wilderness, and the altar of burnt offering were at that time in the high place at Gibeon. But David could not go before it to inquire of God, for he was afraid of the sword of the angel of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. You know what? I don't. I do too. I'm gonna go first. Because I'm taking charge.
Okay.
I don't really remember this story. I kind of do. Some of it sounds familiar, especially the part where he was haggling over the threshing floor with Ornan. But I'll say that I don't really remember hearing this story in church. Like, it's definitely not as popular as, like, Solomon splitting the baby or, the David and Goliath. Because in this story, Satan, or I was looking it up because the translation means that some say I'm taking this from Gemini, so take it with a grain of salt. Some say the Hebrew word Satan should be translated as an adversary rather than a personal name. Others say that Satan's role in First Chronicles 21 is similar to the role of the angel of Yahweh in the other parts of the Bible. According to the Bible, Satan tempted or convinced David to take a census, which doesn't seem like that bad of a thing. And then God went on to kill 70,000 people. So if we were watching a movie and there was a really powerful character who wanted a census and another powerful character who killed 70,000 people, who do you think we would say the bad guy is?
Can we clarify what a census is?
A census is when you count how many people there are. I think they just had like a million and some people who draw the sword.
Oh, okay. All right. I was just hearing that differently. Yeah, definitely the person who killed 70,000 people. What I will say, whereas I agree, that is not that bad. I kind of also feel like if we're going to say that is that bad, this does still not make me a fan of David, because I feel like a good leader, God gave him choices, supposedly.
Oh, wait, I missed part of it. God gave him what?
If they're gonna, he gave him choices. Like when the seer came back, I believe, and said, "Hey," which again, why the fuck is the seer communicating and coming back and talking to David? David is already supposed to have the line to God. So why the fuck? I mean, was God mad at him? And it's like one of those things where it's like, "Hey, I'm not going to talk to him. You tell him." I think that's the
situation. Like God was mad at David, so he's like, "I'm not talking to you, God. Tell David that I said that he knows what he did."
Which is fucking crazy. Anyway, but as a leader, if we're going to say David was a good leader, I feel like a good leader then would have countered with, you know what, this is my fault. Don't punish other people. Just punish me.
He did.
What the fuck did I just read?
David did say that.
No, but
I mean, God didn't do it, but yeah,
no,
David says,
yeah, it's fair. He did say, "I would rather fall in the hands of the Lord than fall in the hands of my enemy."
He said, "Give me the
Okay.
Oh yeah, God said to David, "Was it not I who gave the command to count the people? It is I who have sinned and done very wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? Let your hand, I pray, O Lord my God, be against me and my father's house, but do not let your people be plagued."
Oh, okay.
So right, David did say that. So once again, though, what is so evil about counting?
I don't know. He don't want you to count.
I mean, we read a lot of God's statutes and commandments. There was nothing in there I remember about, like, you can't count people. In fact, there was a lot of people counting. They'd be like, "We have them from Judah, them from Benjamin, half tribe of Manasseh." Like, what?
There was counting in this. They had 1 million, and they said,
"Well, that was from the census, though."
Men drew the sword. Then another, yeah, okay,
yeah,
so, okay, yeah.
The evil census,
and he got.
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers. I don't know. I don't. Let me calm down. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I actually was about to Google and see if there is some old timey reason for why a census would be a bad thing.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna Google that too. Yeah, Gemini. Why was God so pissed off about the census?
Why was David's census a great sin? This is not Gemini. Was according to 10th Presbyterian Church, which they go on this. They say tonight. I guess this person is speaking in first person, but tonight I'm going to briefly handle 3 questions that have come to me most recently. The first asks, why was it such a great sin for King David to order a census of Israel? This refers to 2 Samuel 24. Verse 1 through 17, which is not.
This is another version of that story.
Anger burned against Israel. Yeah, yes, because David took a census of the fighting men. Even Joab, David's thug general, knew this would bring trouble, saying, "Why does my lord the king want to do such a thing?" As soon as David did it, he too knew it was a sin. God's wrath was so stirred up that 70,000 people died as a result. But interestingly, the biblical account never explains why this was a sin, which means it was.
No, all it needs to do to be a sin is God say it was.
What makes this more interesting? But if it's not in the Bible, which is supposed to be the literal word of God, then it doesn't apply. That's like saying
story with people. Yeah,
it's making up rules after the fact.
With the garden, where it was like in the Garden of Eden, where it was just like, "Hey, don't buy the apple," but the apple told you what was right from wrong. It's like we didn't even know right from wrong until we bought the apple. So how is it that it's always?
I don't want a God by trial and error. Give me the fucking rules up front. That's all I want. Just again, tell me the rules up front. Then I can know how to maneuver so I don't piss you off. But like, don't make up shit as we go, because then what the fuck? Then that game is rigged.
You're supposed to know. It's like
Which
when he got mad at
is a
Saul for
whole-
making sacrifices without.
And that right there, what you just said, is another triggering thing for me. The amount of people who say shit like in regards to like a relationship where they're like, this person is supposed to
You know what you did.
Why can't
You know
we
what
just
you
have
did. I shouldn't have to
communication?
tell you. I shouldn't have to tell you.
yeah.
You should just know. I'm sorry. Am I triggering you?
That is a terrible.
Yeah.
That is a terrible metric or way to measure
It's really.
anything in life. Romantic relationships, platonic relationships, professional relationships. That is a terrible metric. Like, if somebody does something, then I'm not even gonna say they don't know what they did, but like, you should always have the courtesy to say, this is why I'm upset with you, or this is why I don't like what you did, to set that boundary. But if you just bring this shit up out the blue, how the fuck am I supposed to know?
I mean, that's your sin. And that's why we had to kill those 70. And once again, if I had to guess, if like this is anyway based anyway in reality, it was probably trying to explain away a plague, because we know from real life plagues happen. And we kind of saw even in our own lives when COVID was unfolding, they wanted like answers. Why? Like, why is God allowing this to happen? It's like, oh, it's probably because people have been too gay, or they're letting women have abortions, or people always like reach for like, other than the fact that especially in this type of population that was probably gross, they didn't have any indoor plumbing. Like, yeah, there's going to be and they're constantly sacrificing animals. That's not a great combo to avoid, pathogens that could lead to a plague. So if I had to guess, I don't, because like I said, I don't really believe the God of the universe is talking to Gad or David. So, like, if something was really happening where they were like, oh, well, people are always looking for a reason. So they're like, well, David did order that census. So, and actually, lightweight, because people had to move around for the census, that might have inadvertently caused an outbreak, because you're going from place to place. So if there was something, if somebody picked up something in one place and then went somewhere else to count, they could have brought it with them.
Well, to answer the question, because we didn't actually answer it, was able to read through. The reason that, per 10th Presbyterian Church, they say that the record in Chronicles places this right after a great victory over the Philistines. So the sin was probably related to a problem with pride and self-reliance. Meaning, because David took initiative and decided, hey, I want to do this thing without asking God first. It's coming off as essentially as a story of, oh yeah, that wasn't my idea, or I didn't tell you you could do that, and therefore that's why.
Kind of sounds like pimping. And it reminds me a little bit too of the Tower of Babel, where God got mad at all that human cooperation and was just kind of like, I don't need none of that. Boom. I'm gonna strike you down.
It seems like that guy or person or gal or whoever who is upset that they're not the cause of the fun. You ever been in a situation like that where you're somewhere and like maybe somebody else is in a bad mood or whatever the fuck case is, but you're having a good time and they're like, shut the fuck up, or call or turn that racket down, or whatever the case may be, just because they're having a bad time or they're not involved with whatever it is. This very much feels like that.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe God was feeling insecure. Maybe it put on a couple pounds of holiday weight and just kind of felt like, what? David's not asking me first. Also, super curious to me, like, it's supposed to be God of the universe and he only cares about these desert people, but whatever.
Yeah, that's a whole
there
nother,
were humans all over the globe
I
at
guess
this
you could
point.
argue
This
that
was just maybe like 5,000 years ago. There would have been people in India, Southern Africa, Western Europe, Asia, the Americas. God did not seem to be this God anyway. They had their own gods, but like this God didn't seem particularly like hey guys, you could just spread out a little. I made a bunch of earth.
But yet here
Or
we
he
are.
could have made us like able to live in the ocean, since most of the world that we live on is ocean.
Yeah, we could have been more compatible with, being underwater. That would have been actually probably better for us.
Alrighty. Well, next time we're gonna like repeat a bunch of stuff. The temple, Solomon, Levites, the division of priests, all that kind of stuff. So yeah. I would say, Journey would tell you to don't stop believing, but I would say stop believing. Like there's no, it's not really a virtue just to keep believing in something you heard in your childhood. In the same way we don't admire adults who still really believe in Santa Claus. To me, this is just an extension of the Santa Claus myth, where there's there's a giant sky daddy who cares about you and will give you good stuff if you're good, and will like punish you if you're bad.
But if people let that go, then who are they?
Yeah.
This is honestly
Yeah.
an identity crisis, an identity issue. Because if I let this thing
You
go,
have to figure that
then who
out.
am I? And that is something. Yeah, but
They
a lot of
don't.
people don't want to do that work. A lot of people don't want to.
And a lot of people are, oh, sorry.
They would rather be miserable.
Well, they
would
also
rather be
really
miserable.
are afraid of going to hell. I really don't think that gets emphasized enough, how much, like, sort of just, if you've grown up with the concept of hell, that is terrifying.
I did.
But
And it just.
but were you ever
And then I
really
grew
afraid
up.
of going to hell?
Yeah, when I was in the 6th grade. And then somewhere.
That's terrible, though. I think about a first grader really being afraid of burning in hell forever. That's so sad
I mean, yeah, I used to be
to me.
afraid of, but then it's just like, what the fuck? Like, I feel like we're already in hell. Like, what could possibly. I mean, there could be things worse, yes. But I feel like we've seen, especially for those in a more modern society, we've have access to so much fucked up shit that we can witness that. Can it really get much worse? I mean, I've seen people be eaten by bears. People get shot. Like, people lose their children and die. Like, what the fuck could be worse than that? An asteroid hitting our planet, which apparently may happen in 2025. There's like 3 or 4 asteroids.
Well, here's the thing about asteroids. Like, there's so many, because of the way our galaxy's set up and the way gravity works, like the really big stuff, like it's not, we don't have enough gravity to really attract us. So the stuff that gets caught up in our orbit, a lot of times is burned up in our atmosphere. Like, we get hit by space stuff all the time.
Oh, so Armageddon was
just-
bullshit.
Yes, that was just something some guys wrote down. Much like the Bible. Oh, that was a good segue.
Anyway.
But yeah, like a lot of stuff is just some guy just wrote this down, and not even probably a smart guy. Like, it was probably some.
I always
like,
feel like the joke here
I don't.
is I've thought about this since I was a child. I always felt like, what if they just, whoever wrote this just wrote it and then they died, and it was like an incomplete work, and then somebody just found it and was like, oh, we should use this for XYZ. You know what I'm saying?
Well, once again, it's not just one person.
No.
I imagine like a lot of the people who worked on this like died in the middle of it.
Fair. I don't know. I just always thought that would be
Because once
like
again, this is mostly
a fucking cosmic.
because it's mostly oral. Like, this is mostly an
Fair.
oral tradition that was just passed down until it finally got written down. And that's why we're reading a different version of it, because someone else wrote the second Samuel version, and now we're reading the first Chronicles version, which is like the same but slightly different. It would just be like if both of us decided to write a manuscript about the Santa Claus myth. Like, there'd be some similarities, but they're not going to be exactly the same.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it would be crazy. But no, that makes sense. Anyway, here we are, reading this thing, trying to find meaning of it ourselves.
Again. Yeah, it's and once again, I want people to know that, you know, even though we sound like assholes, we're actually very nice people. I think, like, what bothers me about the Bible is how unkind it is, and how, like I said, I don't know if there's a God or not. I haven't seen any evidence for or against, but to me, this Bible isn't like evidence for a God. And the picture they paint of this, the Lord character, even though the branding around it is very friendly, the reality of it is not. And that's it.
All right. So, your body belongs to you. Be curious, not judgmental. biblebreakdownpodcast@gmail.com. See you next time. Peace.